Hello, and welcome back to the AppleInsider Podcast. This is your host, Wes Hilliard speaking. Our sponsor this week is ZocDoc. More on that in a bit. I am joined once again by William Gallagher, and he's here to tell me how much he loves Apple Card. Even though he can't get one, he's just admiring it from afar.
Right, thank you. I was in a good mood till you said that. But it's so shiny. Why can't we have it in the UK?
It feels fancier than it is. I try to explain to servers, it's just, I promise, it's just a card. It's not that, they just made it out of metal. Anyway, of course, this week, if you're a premium subscriber, you're getting the show ad-free, and you'll get the Apple Insider Plus segment. And this week, actually, it's a secret. William's keeping it from me. He has his own segment by himself talking about some stuff. What is that about, William?
Did I not tell you? I've been telling people in the street about this. I like this one so much. As this episode goes out, the iMac was announced 26 years and 1 day ago. And I've just got all these lovely bits from across the years of Steve Jobs, Phil Schiller, newer people whose names I can't 100% pronounce, announcing the different bits of the iMac and just what we now know made it so special. It's just gorgeous. I love all this. Yes, you must listen. Must. App Insider Plus, like you just said, is for subscribers, so join us. Join us. And if you already have, brilliant. It's coming up in a bit. That's great, isn't it? Do I sound too excited there? Just a tiny bit?
It's the proper level of excitement, I believe. And I wanted to start off...
Sorry, because I realised I had an iMac for years. It was brilliant, but I'm pretty sure you've only ever had MacBooks, haven't you? So you don't know about this world.
No. I've owned a 27-inch iMac back in the Intel days.
Good.
It felt very large. That was a very large screen size.
Yes. Of course, now I have a 49-inch wide one, but the resolution isn't as good and it's narrower top to bottom. So I still remember the iMac as being this absolutely
And I have kind of an iMac
display.
in the studio display. It has probably more processing power than that Intel iMac, even though it doesn't run an operating system. It has a chipset inside of there to help with software updates, which we still haven't really seen a whole lot actually change because of that, have we? But... moving on, I wanted to bring up at the top of the show, we mentioned last week and we had a whole segment kind of discussing the Apple Vision Pro review. Now, okay, it didn't come out, but I can explain. It was ready to go. Everything's done.
Wait. Did you lose it somewhere?
No. The dog ate it.
Where did you last see it?
It's just one of those things where sometimes a schedule is set until it isn't. And so we changed it up a little bit. We decided to push it back a little bit. So it probably isn't going to be out as you're listening, but within a couple of days, by the next episode, because we have a specific date in mind, it will be out. So don't worry, it's coming. Everything I said still applies. I didn't go rewrite the thing. I haven't changed my mind and said it's the greatest thing ever. I promise. It's all there. Nothing actually has changed with Vision Pro in the last week, except for that new episode of Wild coming out with the elephants, which is great. But again, all of my complaints and regards towards Apple needing to step up and be an evangelist, a better evangelist anyway, of Vision Pro to make it succeed is still standing. That could change in the next 4 days, I guess. We'll see. Maybe Apple will just suddenly change its mind and start promoting it wildly during this episode. Wouldn't that be crazy, William?
That would be excellent. The thing is, after the episode last week, I went to read the review and it wasn't there, and I was crestfallen. I mean, you told me it might be a while, so okay. But in the meantime, I've been having a talk with a guy on YouTube who I don't know quite what his health situation is, but he was saying he actually thought Apple Vision Pro could be the right thing for him going forward with whatever his condition is. And yeah, the ability to have all of that processing power in front of you, not having to carry around Macs and monitors and things. You can see it being really good, and yet I find I'm deeply impressed, but I still don't want one, and that's what's missing.
So, William, so speaking of advertisements and accessibility features, we've got a new Apple ad. I just wanted to bring it up real quick. What was it called?
Oh, is this the Relay?
The Relay, that's the one. I knew it was an R. So the Relay. So this actually came out right as the Paralympics are beginning in Paris. It's in Apple's usual style. I'm really enjoying these types of ads where they just kind of dive in and show you people using their tech. But in this case, it was a group of highly professional people at the peak of their fitness, at the peak of their game, going to do a relay race with while taking advantage of many accessibility features used in Apple products without really directly calling out Apple at all, which was, again, it's refreshing when Apple makes these. They're a lot of fun. And then at the end, of course, you get the Apple logo, and that's all you really get as far as that. But there's obviously the Apple Watch and iPhone and stuff, but we didn't see any of the relay racers wearing a Vision Pro during the race. So wanted to point that out.
Was there a baton race in it, and they were carrying Apple pencils that they used? Apple, what do you? Thing is, I missed that completely, and I should hurry up because who knows how long it'll be before Apple is forced to pull it. Like lots of their.
This one was a good one.
I liked the Underdogs one as well. I really like that series and stuff, and it's gone.
I would so we didn't touch on it last week. I can't remember exactly when this happened, but yes, the Underdogs one was pulled, mostly because Apple tries its best to avoid offending anyone, and while it was actually a rather tasteful commercial, some people did find some offense with it, specifically people in Thailand, because they feel like it continues to portray the stereotype that visiting Bangkok can lead to losing your luggage or meeting wacky locals or having trouble getting around because no one knows how to use the taxi system. Right? Like it was kind of, even though they were very lighthearted about it and still showed these people as resilient and helpful and compassionate, like the other things still stood out. So Apple said, you know what? I understand. From my perspective, of course, I'm not from Thailand, so I don't have that pride in that issue, right? So I'm speaking completely out of turn, but it did seem like it was rather tasteful, and it's never fun seeing a piece of art like that pulled down for any reason, but I mean, I think you could have taken the same story, the same situations, the luggage, the trying to fit in, the language barrier and all that, and put it in any country in the world, and it would still fit, like, because the focus was on the technology and the people and the characters that they were portraying. But in any case, I'm glad we got to see it while we did. It's not like I was going to go back and watch it again. What do you think?
Would I have watched it again? Maybe, actually, because I did watch the last year's one, the thriller, the stolen MacBook one. I think it's superbly well done. And the first thing I heard was that Thailand thought it projected this, like an antique isn't the word, an old-fashioned view, like you said.
Right.
And I wondered if it was colour graded in such a way that there was a slight pattern on it, and I thought it was actually beautifully done, but maybe it did make things look a little older than.
What if it was kind of an Austin Powers style London escapade, and people were getting stuck in phone booths, and would that have bothered you?
Not in the slightest, no.
But maybe they had an Apple Card, and that would have bothered you a little bit. Because they were traveling from the U.S. and they would have had one, wouldn't they?
Yeah, they would. All right. Okay. Fine.
But in any case, as we talk about the current Apple Vision Pro and its 6-month review, there's more to talk about. Time to throw this thing in the garbage, William, because it's already old. It's out of date. Someone is obviously building the new one, right? So is this what the story is trying to tell us?
Well, actually, I think of multiple stories, and all of them say you wasted your money. There's a newer, better, slimmer, smaller, cheaper one coming Tuesday or Wednesday or something like that. Which one is the one that's particularly attracted your bile, by the sound of it?
No. I just find it funny because these stories are a dime a dozen, as you say, and this was from Bloomberg, of course. And, we're a tech news website. We're going to report from people who generally either are providing news or have internal sources, and Mark Gurman generally fits that bill until he proves otherwise. Yes, he has quite the roller coaster history, but he's right more than he is wrong. And not every source is going to be 100% correct anyway. So we do catch some internet flack, I've noticed, of people complaining about certain coverage standpoints. And this one I thought was funny because someone cried clickbait, and it's just like, I mean, we're just reporting the story. I don't know what you want from us. But so someone told Bloomberg that Apple's continuing work on a next generation Apple Vision Pro and Apple glasses. I mean, I could have been the one informing
Yes.
Bloomberg. In fact, I might be, because it makes sense. Apple is obviously working on the next generation of this stuff. It doesn't undo the fact that the Vision Pro is already out. It doesn't mean that it's incoming anytime soon. It just means they're working on it, just like they're working on many other products.
I mean, yes. That I know that's the story you meant, and that's really the one that came first to mind. But actually, since that, there has been another story, which might even be less of a rumor. Basically, there's a newly revealed patent application which suggests that Apple is trying to work it so that, actually, you know this because you've got a headset, I haven't. Unless it's plugged into the wall, you get about 2.5 hours of battery life. But then when you have to change over batteries, the headset can't run at all. It can't hot swap batteries. Is that right?
Yes, if you remove power, it shuts down. There's no reserve power in the headset or anything. But I mean, I've literally never ran into that. So,
so not a big deal. But still, Apple is looking at it, and it appears there's something slightly odd about this patent application. But it appears to be suggesting that in the future there'll be a combination of Apple Vision Pro and AirPods, where you can take the AirPod out of your ear. I know it sounds like I'm making this up, but I promise you that's what it says. And hold it next to the AirPod. It will magnetically attach and will charge the Apple Vision Pro. Now,
kind of like the existing audio pods just being kind of an AirPod that you can stick in your ear.
Yes, except you've got to be thinking AirPods, tiny battery, Apple Vision Pro, enormous battery. There's a difficulty there. So I think that what this patent is actually doing is purely talking about the transfer of power magnetically through a particular section of the Apple Vision Pro, and that the AirPods bit is just, well, it could be, might not be, could be. And that maybe more likely is something like a new strap, because I'd forgotten about this completely. There is actually a developer-only Apple Vision Pro strap that connects it to a Mac. So there are straps that do more than just strap.
Well, it's because there's a electronic connection in the there's the headband portion that goes around the back of your head, and then there's the headband portion that goes across your temples, and the temple portions are actually small computers because they have to connect to the audio pods. So there's actually an interface in those straps. You can pop them out with a SIM ejector tool and put in a different one with a USB port and connect it to your Mac that way. And that interface has more pins to connect to the Vision Pro. But again, that's just really for developers. There's no reason for a consumer to buy that.
Oh, and apparently for developers it costs $300. So you got to really want it and not have an alternative. Yeah?
I'm going to design the Vision Pro 2 real quick. So
Yes.
I think that there is some merit in modularity. And right now we have an external battery pack with a cable that runs to it. My offer here is two things. One, the battery pack should be able to charge wirelessly. I should be able to just plop it down on a station, pick it up, no cables involved, slip it in my pocket, that kind of thing. I understand that can be slow, but we're already at 15 watts. What's another few watts? Maybe we get to 20, and then it's sustainable enough that you're not draining the battery while it's charging. These chipsets are getting pretty efficient these days. The other thing I would say is maybe you could introduce another level of modularity by having a connector that switches so you can disconnect the battery and then plug it in to a kind of desktop, right? Think of it kind of like almost a Mac Mini that you plug your Vision Pro into. And when you do, you get access to a more powerful chipset that can be upgraded annually, and an infinite power supply because it's connected to the wall, and maybe some ports to connect a controller, keyboard, mouse, whatever, over hardwire. And that's essential because when you're sitting at a desk, you're not moving. The cable could be a little bit longer maybe for more reach, but you could then have a super powered Vision Pro when you're at the desk, and when you want to be portable, you just unplug it, stick it back in the battery, and now you're back on the M2 or maybe M4 when this comes out, M6 processor when you're portable. Does that sound like a good idea, William? Is that a thing that would make this a more accessible product? And then, of course, you wouldn't have to upgrade the headset as often. You could upgrade the chipset through the little tower guy.
But this sounds close to, there's a term you've used before for when you have just one device. I forgot what it's called. One device is basically your phone. I think so. It sounds like this would make the headset that just optionally you plug it into other things. wherever you go.
I think that's the obvious next step, because the first generation, I mean, maybe not the tower thing, but just the first generation lacking any I/O whatsoever. I mean, I understand that that's kind of where Apple's going with a lot of their products, but at the end of the day, modularity helps sustain a product and giving it more life. The price, I think, would be a lot easier to swallow if they said, yeah, sure, the headset, it's going to cost you $3,000. It has all this technology in it. But what if every year you could spend $500, buy a new little tower guy with different ports, and maintain your computational power when at the desktop? Now, of course, you could also argue, well, you could already do that with a Mac by upgrading a MacBook every couple of years, and then, just bring the Mac into the headset. Maybe it is a Mac. I don't know. But it's just one of those things where I can see these tools becoming more intertwined as we go forward.
Yeah, the blurring together of Apple devices. For some reason, in all that, what you remind me of, something I really like about the move to USB-C is that I can charge my watch and my phone and my iPad from my MacBook, whether it's plugged into the mains or not. I mean, obviously it knocks down the MacBook battery, but that facility, it means there's a place I go where I only have to bring one device to charge.
Take it one step further, actually. The iMac has a brick with Ethernet in it. Why not make the battery into a bit more of an intelligent brick? So you still have the battery connection cable that you have now. It's still, maybe a more intelligent connector solution that has more oomph, maybe a Thunderbolt connection. And then at the battery, have a USB out that goes to that tower, as I said. That way, you're always got power to the headset. You're not resetting it every time you connect it to the new device. See, look, we're designing for Apple already. I'm waiting for the check in the mail.
Oh, you see, I went straight to I'm waiting for the device to come out. But you're pure of heart? Maybe that's not the right description. Maybe more sensible. That's what we're looking at. If any of this appears in leaks and things, then we should definitely get credit for it, don't you think? Isn't this how leaks sometimes start? I'll work on the colours. Okay.
Sometimes the most clever solution is the most obvious one, and
yeah.
When you use a device long enough, you start thinking of things Apple's already thought of 6 months ago, right? I mean, I understand that there's probably a lot of problems with the technology I'm describing. It's completely made up and not based on anything that I could build myself. So who knows if it is even possible? But I think that that is kind of the future of these product lines. And we mentioned Apple glasses as well. I mean, ultimately, Vision OS will run on a set of glasses. And I think, again, wouldn't it make the most sense to have the computational core be an external object you can upgrade separately from the visual aspects of it? And that way, if Apple has a breakthrough in sensor, camera, or display technology, you can upgrade that component. And if they have a breakthrough in chipset technology, you can upgrade that component. And that way you're not beholden to upgrading an entire device all at once. But other companies have tried this to less success. But of course, those were in different products like cell phones, where modularity in components made them too big and bulky.
There's so many times when Apple has made me feel like I have a complete lack of imagination, because I wouldn't have ever thought of wireless headphones, and yet as soon as AirPods came out, that's obviously the thing to do. I mean, way back in the day when PowerBooks pushed the keyboard to back, so obvious, never occurred to me. So I think Apple's always going to keep coming out with stuff that I can't even imagine yet, and I suppose I like that, really.
William, could you imagine, let's say, workshopping here, an iPad that connects to a robotic arm? Is that something that you would ever imagine?
No.
Maybe even purchase?
No, because I mean, I do have a Magic Keyboard, so sometimes, quite a lot of the time, my iPad is kind of mounted in that. But I like my iPad loose, free, in my hand and stuff. I don't like an arm moving it around where it thinks I'm supposed to go.
Yeah, that's the power of magnets. You just snap it on there, and when you want it, you grab it and you go. I do wonder about this product. So we have another couple of sources, Bloomberg again, I believe, talking about Apple's robotics division developing this smart arm that can, make your iPad nod and follow you around the room. Cool, I guess. But I'm more interested in just the product line itself. What shape is it going to take? There's so many directions this could go. It could be a HomePod speaker with a robotic arm attachment that has a magnetic mount for an iPad, or it could be an all-in-one system that no component can be disconnected. But the good news is, whatever they're making, probably under $1,000 to purchase it.
Mm-hmm. One of the things something that is not included in the AppleInsider Plus thing about the iMac is there was this gorgeous ad. Remember the sunflower iMac? Yes. Guy walks past a window and it moves, follows it and dances. And the reason it's not in is there's nothing you can hear on the packet, so it would just be the music. And I like the music, but it doesn't tell you what's going on. What you just said there about it moving around on the arm, it sounded like a modern version of the same thing. Anthropomorphized iPad. I'm not rushing to it, but you might be.
I desperately want an Apple smart screen home device unit thing. Just give me, it could be sold in two tiers as we've discussed before. It could have a version that's $700 that comes with the robotic arm and that kind of stuff, and a version that's just a display on a speaker that's static, and it'd be more closer to like $400 or $500. That's all fine. Just, I want a central smart hub. And if these things are going to cost $700, I could see buying one, maybe two, if you're being extra generous, if you have maybe a 2-story home or more than one living area, right? We just really have the living room and dining room, and that's basically one room anyway because it's an open floor plan. So I probably wouldn't need more than one of these things. But that brings the question, how static is it? Again, is this powered by an iPad that you own? Is it a tablet device that is kind of like an iPad, but when you pop it off, it's still just the home network guy? You can just carry it around, but you're not necessarily going to use it as an iPad. I don't know. I want to see what Apple does here, because we've seen other companies like Facebook and Amazon experiment with these tablet-like stationary products that are not meant to be iPads. They're meant to be home computers. In the sense of they are smart home computers that display photos, play music, and control your home, that is user agnostic, kind of like the HomePod, just with a display. So how will Apple tackle that issue? And are these rumors conflating a few products and maybe just wanting to make things sound more exciting by making it a robotics division rumor rather than just a HomePod rumor?
The thing is, ever since the Apple car apparently died and we heard Apple's moved everybody over to making a robot, lots of people have been very excited about this, and I just think, robot, not going to use it. It's like a barrier to me rather than something exciting. What is it that makes you so want that kind of home station, whether it's a robot or not?
Mostly just convenience. I like the idea of passive computing, and this is something I wish that we could do better with Apple TV as it exists today. I like the idea of just having information. Right now, I've been using the portrait mode screensaver on Apple TV because it gets to show off the photos that I take and shows the time, which is kind of useful. We have clocks everywhere, but it's just blown up huge on the screen. It just looks nice. I could imagine a future update that lets you add a widget to that, maybe kind of a standby mode kind of thing, but on the TV. That could be interesting. But I like the idea of that being at a smaller scale. I don't need my living room TV being the always-on monitor. That can sometimes be unhealthy for large panels like a television. So the idea of a couple of smart screens around the home just showing you the weather. If you're playing music, it could just show you the album art for what you're playing, give you access to controls. If guests are over and maybe want to access the Now Playing list, they could show the QR code for them to join the session or allow them to jump into Apple Music and choose a song. But it's still a agnostic device, meaning they can navigate around. They could even check Apple News. They could check the music. They could go into the weather app, that kind of stuff. But they can't get into my messages or my personal photos, maybe my shared library photos that everyone can see. It would have a section for that, but it wouldn't have my entire library, right? So, it would just be a computing device for everyone that's in the house, whether they live there or not, and give them access to light control, right? Instead of obtusely yelling in the air and hoping that something in the room is smart enough to turn on and off this light, if it's even a smart light in the first place, how would anyone know? But having everything displayed on this kind of monitor gives them a little bit more agency without me having to be involved of every step of the process.
Okay. that makes sense. Except my mind has suddenly tripped over the fact that iPhone, iPad, obviously the Mac, obviously Apple Watch, and at least sometimes, depending on what you're looking at, Apple TV, all have a clock somewhere on the top. But when you're looking at Apple Vision Pro, is there any clock at all unless you take steps like this?
It's thankfully much better now, because the answer used to be no. Of course, you can add clock widgets. You can add literal clocks. People have made three-dimensional clocks you can put in your space.
All right.
But the new gesture in Vision OS 2 just allows you to look at your hand and it shows the time, so that's helpful.
Do you know, I'd miss the clock in the corner kind of thing.
When did time become so important to humans? I'd say
when we
1,000 years
invented
ago,
clocks, yeah, basically. Yes,
no,
back in the day.
It's just why, I guess it gets back to why do we need to know every second of every day of what time it is? That's my productivity brain kicking in of it's not that important to know what time it is as long as you're getting things done, right?
Deadlines are crossing my mind, but okay, yes.
Hey, that's why, you know what? Quit your job and no. I understand time is important, but I just, that again.
I used to work in radio. I used to work on a monthly magazine, and I moved from that to a daily, an hourly thing online and stuff. So I was very conscious change there. But also because I started off in radio, I'm really, really conscious of the top of the hour, the bottom. I kind of think geographically around the time, and so always needing to know what have you done, what's next, what's queued up, what isn't, right. All that stuff. I can't shake it, and really I liked it so much I don't want to shake it, but now you give me a reason to not buy an Apple Vision Pro. There you go.
There's parts of the productivity internet that say knowing what time it is actually a detriment to productivity.
Yeah,
but that you know what? I can think of someone who needs the time, and that's the guy who resets the atomic bomb on in Lost every few hours. Right? There's a countdown timer. He has to go stop it from blowing up the island or whatever. I haven't finished that show when it.
I've seen episode
back in the day, we had this thing called cable, and you had to watch it on a schedule, and I've never catch the right episode. So I've seen Lost out of order randomly over a decade and never went back to actually watch it.
Well, I was sent the first episode on a review tape at the BBC. I thought, this is fantastic, but it wasn't due out for a couple of weeks, so I couldn't see episode 2, and I missed episode 2, and then I haven't seen anything more. So, yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah. If only there was some kind of online way of watching television.
Streaming. There's so much
streaming.
Better television
That's
out there.
the word. That's true. Okay. Well, I don't want to knock it. I really like episode 1. I hear criticisms of whatever the last episode was, but in between.
They went in with an idea, didn't have an ending in mind, and thought they would just write it as they go, which some shows do, to be fair. They just never reached the point where they actually came up with an ending.
Well, a thing I love, sorry, I've got to tell you this because I learnt it again only recently. You remember the show 24?
Yes.
A few years ago. It was only ordered for 12 episodes. So it was a strong chance it was only going to run for 12. But it was fortunately successful enough. It got the back 12 and completed the season. But that just tickles me that they went in thinking we're going to have to wrap this up on hour 12 if necessary. And they would have done. There was a plan. But they didn't need it, fortunately. This episode is brought to you by ZocDoc. ZocDoc is a free app and website where you can search and compare high-quality in-network doctors, choose the right one for your needs, and click to instantly book an appointment. Now, ZocDoc is for the US, and I'm in England, so I can't use it, but there is not one single pixel of a chance that I wouldn't if I could. Because for me, and I imagine it must be for you, the same for you too, any time you need any doctor's appointment, it's a pain, pun not intended. For me, for example, it can take just a simply ludicrous amount of time to simply get through to my local practice. Plus, as it happens right now, I'm waiting on this quite trivial thing, but the appointment I've been given is in late September. And for anyone in the States, you've got the whole issue of insurance too. Obviously, I knew you have various medical insurance systems in the US, but I was shocked. I'm not kidding. Actually, no, seriously shocked by this. You can find out that after you've booked an appointment and after you've gone to it, then you can find the doctor does not take your insurance. I think that's just unacceptable. And it doesn't have to be any longer because ZocDoc just does it right. When you use ZocDoc, it shows you the doctors you need, the healthcare people you need, but only the ones who will take your insurance. That sounds so simple to me, chiefly because, well, it is. And, okay, I suppose that logically you could argue that it must mean the number of search results is cut down because you're not seeing every possible doctor. But, I struggle to think that's a bad thing. Plus, with ZocDoc, it's not like there are only a few possible doctors available. We're talking about in-network appointments with more than 100,000 healthcare providers across every speciality, from mental health to dental health, eye care to skincare, and just, much more. Then, too, all right, it's excellent having all this data about insurance and appointments and about every healthcare professional's particular specialisms, but everyone is also rated by verified patients. Plus, ZocDoc appointments are actually happen fast. I mean, typically within 24 to 72 hours of booking. You can even score same-day appointments. So you see why I'm not kidding. I would be using ZocDoc. You can use it. So stop putting off those doctor's appointments and go to ZocDoc.com/AppleInsider to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. That's ZocDoc.com. Z, get it right, William. Z, not Z, ZocDoc.com/AppleInsider. So ZocDoc.com/AppleInsider. And thank you to ZocDoc for supporting the Apple Insider podcast.
So let's move on to a little bit of Apple Intelligence news.
What? Away from ridiculously old TV trivia? Amazing. Apple Intelligence, yes. Give me. What have you got?
Yes, so Apple Intelligence could charge you money eventually. I don't know. This rumor popped up at least twice in the last week.
Yeah.
I believe it's possible that there could be some kind of paid content associated with Apple Intelligence. Maybe third parties. Maybe Apple and OpenAI will let you do the paid subscription plan through Apple, and then Apple gets a revenue share. Like, there's obvious paths this could take. But right now, Apple Intelligence is free, but we're seeing rumors of a again, these rumors are funny because it's something I could make up. Like, it's just prognostication almost in its purest form. Anywhere between 2025 and 2027, so you could charge as much as $20 per month. It's just like, come on. Like, you're just pulling these numbers out of a hat, right?
Yes. I think, do we use the phrase spitballing in Apple Insider's coverage about it? But it is somebody over a coffee going, yeah, whatever, 12, 20. No, 20 sounds good. Any advance on 20? No, let's don't get carried away. No connection. And I think you've said it there. I can well see a time when you can elect to buy, like through an AI app store, a particular tool that does a particular AI thing, like edit crowd sizes, for example, things like that. But the core of it, I just don't see Apple trying to turn it around. It's so hard to launch something free and then turn it to paid.
And charge. Well, yeah, that's why the base features will always be free. And then they'll just introduce a new premium feature. Maybe Siri will get some kind of personality and you can, like, buy add-on packs or something. Like, here's the Western Siri or the anime Siri or something. I don't know, just different characters you can talk to in different modes. It's just there's always ways to monetize things. Whether or not they are useful is a different question, right?
Yeah. None of that sounds like stuff I'd rush to do. But if somebody added, instead of professional, friendly and concise, threatening that I mentioned before, or what else could you have in there that I would buy?
Right, you can buy new writing styles
for
the writing tools. There you go.
Yeah, a Virginia Woolf or an Emily Dickinson style writing. I'd pay for that. I would.
I think that gets into the whole conversation of now we're just stealing everyone's stuff. But
yeah,
that brings up a good point, though. I think it makes sense, though. So let's walk this back. So obviously this AI stuff is complicated. Much of it is built on the fact that you have to take all the information on the internet and squeeze it into a computer and tell it to learn from that, and then it gains this ability to predict the next most possible word or pixel in an image as it's generating to create something that looks like the thing you're asking for. text or image or video now, or just what have you. That's what these generative systems do. So you need all this information. And part of that means that it's going to possibly reference that information that it's got almost directly. I'm still making Copilot images of Mickey Mouse smoking cigarettes in a courtroom. So there's a lot of weird stuff going on with artificial intelligence stuff, so-called anyway. And then Apple Intelligence, I think I'm still hammering this, takes the better approach, right? Now we don't have the image generator yet, so we have no idea how that's going to work beyond what little bit of demo we've seen from Apple, which seems to give you 3 predisposed inputs to change the wording for, but you don't get to just say, hey, make Mickey Mouse smoking a cigarette. You get to say, my aunt, beach, and funny, and then it makes an image for you or something. I don't know. We'll see how that works when we get there, but right now what we do have is the text stuff, and Apple does not let you say, write the 2024 Emily Dickinson poem that she would have written about toilet paper going out of sale during COVID, right? You can't do that with Apple's intelligence. What you can do is write your own terrible poem or article or email, and then say, hey, make this a little bit more professional. Make it a little bit, or just proofread it. Just find the grammatical errors, which it just corrects it for you and doesn't tell you what it corrected, so you have to go line by line to see what changed. Hopefully they fix that. But yeah, that's what happens. You have to produce the content. So to go all the way full circle here, I know, back to that, William, I think if you could buy a Emily Dickinson add-on and you write the story, and then you say, hey, make this sound like Emily Dickinson wrote it, but it's still your story, I think that actually fits. That actually works, and it doesn't hurt anything. What do you think?
On the one hand, make a Emily Dickinson but your story means it's your story or it's Emily Dickinson's. But also, my mind's gone straight to, because I would not stop for toilet roll kindly stop for me.
There you go.
I'm not really in her class, so I think you would notice the difference between Emily and me there, wouldn't you? Actually, that could be a really depressing AI add-on. It might as well just say, you're not good enough, are you, William? Give up. Go back to drawing. Right. Rescue me from this. I'm getting upset.
Right. So what I'm saying is maybe even Dickinson was a poor choice. It's just maybe you could buy different patterns, different things, or even, like you said, licensed things. Make this story sound more like it was written by a Disney author or something like that, or like it could have been a Pixar movie. But again, it's your text to start. Now, how much does it transform your text? And does it plagiarize anything in the process is another question. Again, we'll have to see
how stuff
like that works.
I know the answer. How much does it transform your text? Too much. There you go. Mm-hmm. There's the answer.
Yes. Well, I mean, I think any of these tools, especially from your point of view, William, is too much for the most part. I think the proofreading is actually very light-handed, which is good. I've noticed, I've been doing some comparisons between it and Grammarly, and Grammarly takes the most aggressive editing forms to the point that it's often wrong anymore.
Wow.
Because it's just trying to go so hard into correcting your text that it's just going to suggest something that just makes it worse, or doesn't understand the context that you're giving it, so it changes the entire context of the sentence by changing a word. Whereas Apple seems to be very focused on spelling mistakes, commas, punctuation, different things like that, and is generally avoiding structural changes, which is, again, good. I like that lighter touch. Maybe I can use it and still edit my piece enough that I won't get those annoying, you misspelled this word, in the first comment, or maybe, just avoid those kinds of mistakes, because I don't like how much Grammarly is trying to change what I write most of the time.
That sounds new for Grammarly. Wasn't it better before? Actually, was it better before it added AI features to it? So it
was better when it was basically machine learning, when it was going through and just saying, it looks like it should be this. And 9 times out of 10, it was correct. But today, it's more generative editing, and it's hit and miss for me. I mean, I'm not saying don't use the tool. It's still a useful tool. I'm still using it off and on. Apple's isn't ready for prime time yet. I can't rely on Apple's entirely. in its current form, so I'm still using Grammarly, but it's definitely shown a change in the last couple of years with these AI integrations.
That's a bit disappointing, really. But
what do you think of this? I know we've discussed it before in the show, but I'm going to transition into something else in a moment with this conversation. What do you think of Apple's approach to artificial intelligence so far? Again, it can change any day. They could announce a new thing that just totally steals IP or something. We haven't seen it yet. So, as of this recording right now, Apple seems to be taking the approach of, you still have to make it. You still have agency. You're going to write your resume. You're going to write your article. You're going to write your book. And we're going to help you massage it with these tools. But we're not going to just hand you a fully written, documented resume or like a research paper that we did for you, right? Like, what do you think of that distinction?
I think the principle is exactly the way it should be. I mean, as well as everything you just said there's also, is this a technical thing? I'm not sure. But right now it feels like with AI, I have to stop what I'm doing, go off to ChatGPT, and then come back. But Apple is making it part of what you're doing everywhere. The summarizing in Mail, the click one button to proofread stuff, that feels like a good application of a new technology, which is in every way possible helpful, as much as it can be, and not in any way invasive or interruptive, if that's even a word. If they do what they say, I think they're the ones who've got it right, and that at some point everybody else will follow. I think. I mean, Microsoft's
don't know about
doing
the
a
follow.
lot. Well, I hesitated
other
during
companies are
that.
doubling down. Yeah. They're doubling down on their approach, and they're actually actively mocking Apple for its approach. Now, again, I'll get to that in a moment, and I'm sure everyone knows where we're going with this. But just looking at Apple's, like you say, I love the summaries. Like, I'm getting the notification summaries, the text summaries. I'm in a busy group chat. We're planning a wedding, so of course there's 20 people in there talking about venues and colors and things, and I can just look at it and say, someone suggested this for this date, and and that's the summary. It's not the text they sent, but it's summarizing the last 10 texts, and that everyone's discussing meeting on this date and time, and I get to just glance at that, say, do I need to get involved in this, or move on. Email, you can have a 50 chain email thread with some of these people that we work with for reviews and stuff, and forget, like, were they expecting a certain day? What was this product again? Or like, is it on its way? And then you just click a summary button at the top of the thread, and it summarizes the entire thread and usually pulls out the details that matter. It's not perfect, but again, these places are useful. But I still have to write the email. I don't get to say, hey, reply to this email as me and talk like you're me and send it to them. Without me proofreading it, and it could say whatever it wants. Like, that's not what Apple's doing. They're saying, hey, no, you write the email. We'll help you, make it a little more professional, but it's still what you said at the end of the day.
I found in Mail that the summary in the inbox was actually, I suppose, a summary of the whole thread, not of the latest one. Because the latest one was just somebody saying, thanks, or something. And instead, the summary was what we'd already started talking about last week, I think. So was that just a fluke, or is that what happened?
No, so there's actually multiple places in Mail where there are different summary types. The inbox preview, 2 or 3 lines, you can manually adjust that to. The preview text is just a summary of the latest email in your inbox. You open that mail, and then at the top, it'll have a summarize button, and if you click the one above the thread, it'll summarize the whole thread. If you click the one inside of the mail, that it'll summarize that email, right? So there's actually 3 distinct locations with 3 different summaries, and you could actually get a different summary every time you click it. That's just how generative technology works. But generally speaking, it'll all tell you the same thing, just in longer or shorter ways.
I realise I know why I didn't know that, because I saw the summarise button in individual messages. I didn't see it on the thread. But the thing is, once I've opened the email, I might as well just read it. So I've never bothered to summarise for it. But for a whole thread,
sometimes you do get, sometimes you get either just incredibly long ones. Sometimes one thing I've noticed is for some reason, I guess it's the computer they're using, it'll send an email in a specific font and font size that is different from the system, and Mail respects that. And often when you hit reply, you'll reply in their text formatting, and sometimes it's way too small. So there's stuff like that happens, and it's just very weird email stuff. But you hit the summarize button, and it's in system text, and it's readable. So it's a tool. It's, you use a hammer when you're putting a nail in something, right? You pick it up when you need it. You're not using the hammer when you're cleaning your phone screen, right? So,
well, but no, okay, yes, yeah.
Speaking of phone screens,
yes,
tangent.
Didn't you have a bit of an unfortunate happenstance?
It was a very quickly resolved unfortunate happenstance.
Great.
But I've described my handlebar holder for my phone before. It's a MagSafe mount with 2 rubber bands that wrap around the corners. Never failed me before, but I think I hastily attached my phone at one point. I was photographing deer, so they were all over the path that I was on that day. So I kept taking the phone off, putting it back, so you can see where this is going. I must have not fully attached the bottom rubber band at some point, and I was taking a very gentle turn at the end of my ride at about 10, 15 miles per hour. And the phone just slingshots off. I don't even think I hit a bump. I think it just finally gave, and the phone just goes whoop and just slaps into the pavement at some miles per hour, rocketed by a other rubber band that was attached to the top. So, funny enough, it didn't do that much damage. The titanium has the tiniest little nick in it. I had a entire case on it. The case didn't help too much because the screen was impacted, I believe, but the screen was wildly undamaged. There was a crack at the top in the top corner where it must have encountered a rock or a pebble on the screen, and that was it. Immediately got my Best Buy appointment for the next day, and it took an hour, and they repaired my screen for $30 because I have Apple Care Plus. So easy day. Brand new screen for 1 more month, and then I got a new iPhone.
Yeah. It's just, I'm not amused by this, but the one particular thing I'm a tiny bit amused is the elastic bands, meaning it rocketed off, because the one time in my life I cracked a screen on my iPhone, and I still don't know how to do it. It felt like it came out of my hand and through the air in slow motion as it went to the ground, whereas yours, yes.
Yep.
But also, you posted a photograph of this, of the damage, and it was horrible to see, and I could barely look at it, but I did notice that you had been playing the Automators podcast at the time, and that's one of the ones we recommended in last week's Apple Insider Plus. So, you listen to Apple Insider Plus. That's great. Okay.
Well, it's both of our recommendation. I believe we're both listeners. It's a good show. It's gives you some ideas.
I thought it was just me, but you're right. Of course, you said it as well. I thought I talked him into something, and I hadn't. Okay, all right. Fine.
The new episode of that Sound 20,000 Hertz podcast came out.
Yes.
I haven't listened to it yet, but it is an iPhone related or a phone tone related one, so that'll be interesting.
Yeah, it talks about how the ringtones actually changed 3 times over the years, and you know that when they play the 3, but I hadn't realised. It's like they all blur together to me. I still imagine marimba at the start, but anyway.
But I do want to get into this just a little bit. So, tangent aside, we were discussing Apple Intelligence and its approach to AI, and that has never been more stark in my mind. So, WWDC in June, we hear Apple's first real conference discussing Apple Intelligence, what it's going to be. We've spent a few weeks now with 18.1 with Apple Intelligence in our hands, so now we have actual real-life experience with very fledgling software, and there's a lot missing, but we're getting the idea of what Apple's approach is. And again, rewind 2 minutes, and you'll hear what I think Apple's approach is. It's do it yourself, and we're going to help you. We're not going to generate the entire planet for you on a command. That is not what Apple is doing. Then, as we record yesterday, Google had its Pixel event. This is the first major Android event. Okay, Samsung had an event, but I don't know. we actually covered that. They announced the new Apple Watch Ultra and sorry, the Samsung Galaxy Watch Ultra, and they announced a couple of AI features that everyone else is already doing. There just wasn't much there, but this is Google, and they're kind of leading the race. Samsung, for whatever reason, used to be the guy we would be having this conversation about. Not anymore. They've kind of fallen off. They're samesies. They're just kind of doing what everyone else is doing. Samsung's gotten kind of boring, and I think we actually had that discussion on the show. Yeah. What is going on over there at Samsung that it feels like, in 2015 they were making every article was about the next iPhone killer and yada yada yada. Today they're just kind of like there, and we're very forgettable, and we're just kind of moving on. And I know there's Samsung fans out there listening who are like, "What are you talking about?" But just from our perspective, that's just how it feels. But Google Pixel and Gemini AI are very interesting because they're competing directly with Apple better than Samsung has been in price as well. I believe one of their phones was $1,800 starting price. They announced their new foldable and all of that. But that aside, there's comparisons on AppleInsider. You can go check out specs about the new phones. I wasn't particularly impressed by the phones. Pixels sell by the dozen. People who buy them really enjoy them. They're basically the most iPhone thing you can buy that runs Android, and it's a very vanilla version of Android 2. So if I had to buy one, I would probably be that. But moving on, the hardware just was fine. They're doing some stuff with photography. We'll get into that. The central point of the show that I wanted to compare to is the AI portion, where they discuss Gemini updates and things that are changing. Because I don't know if you noticed this, William, or I know you didn't listen, but I think you caught up afterwards. They didn't spend. There wasn't a lot of new flashy features. It felt like that. And now, again, I know there's Gemini Live. Okay, we're not here to talk about that. That's a completely separate subsystem. They're trying to build an always-on AI. Cool, but I'm talking about base Gemini, and they kind of did an Apple. I think they maybe even unintentionally, but they kind of came out and said, hey, that stuff Apple's doing, we're doing it too. We're going to have specific servers for Gemini requests. We're going to have on-device smaller Gemini systems to run, so it's more private. So it was interesting seeing a lot of that happening during the event.
I got the impression that they were claiming to be first, whereas you just had to explain it by comparing it to what we already knew from Apple. So it doesn't seem very first. Or am I just being cruel?
So it seems like they're taking a tonal shift because they want to make sure that their customers know that, hey, you heard all that stuff from Apple. Actually, we're doing it too, or maybe in some cases we've been doing it since before Apple. We just didn't emphasize it as much, which fine, whatever. People are going to choose the phone they're going to choose. But so that aside, so yes, all that happened. But I just wanted to point out more specifically the feature sets of what Google announced. Further emphasizes the distinction between Google and Android, and it made me recall. So go back about a year to last March to 2023, March 2023, and I wrote an article right after a Google event. So I'm probably going to follow up soon. I need to discuss this with Mike. It's still bouncing around in my head, but I wrote an article about computational photography, and this is before Apple AI, whatever, it was even being properly rumored. And I wanted to take tackle the approach of how Apple thinks of photography as realistic and wanting to produce the most realistic images possible using computational photography, but it's still producing what your eyes perceive, versus Samsung at the time, the controversy around the moon getting altered in photos to look very moon-like and not a glowing ball, and producing not so realistic photos. That was a discussion of computational photography, what was happening in the sensor, and how much control users had over what was happening. And I believed Samsung was taking it too far by just doing it without user consent. And I liked that Apple's approach was realism. Now here we are a year later, and we're talking about Apple Intelligence, and it's almost the same discussion. And Google has taken it even further. And it's not, and this is about photography, but it's about AI, because they have their magic editor that will let you just add flowers to a field that wasn't there before, or a hot air balloon in the background in the sky. And it makes me wonder, William, who is this for? It's a good tech demo. Believe me, It's cool that you can just take a photo and say, hey, make it a little bit more vibrant with some stuff that wasn't there before. But the reality is, who is doing this to their photos? How often and why would you want to alter reality in a memory that you created?
The one I saw, the example I saw, or at least keep hearing about, is putting yourself into a photograph where you're the one who took a group photograph. You can put yourself in it by having someone else in the group take a very similar shot and they get merged together. And what that says to me is your group of friends are so horrible. Nobody's going to take your phone and take a shot for you. That's it. You're foul, terrible people who just don't deserve to be photographed. Or you're in a really violent area and people are going to steal your phone. It feels like extremes. So clever, but useless.
See, you've hit the nail on the head, though. So we don't need to discuss the particular features because they're all well documented. I wanted to take a 100-foot view of this. If Apple's approach to AI is keep creating and we're going to help you make your creations better, we're going to make your handwriting look a little nicer. We're going to make your text sound more professional. We're going to help you make images that are based on art you've already created. You've already took a photo of this person. We're just going to turn them into a superhero, right, based on the knowledge we have of what they look like, stuff like that, right? Apple's taking what you have and changing it in those ways. Google is saying creation is hard. The process of developing art is tedious, and we're going to take away that tedium by making AI do it for you. We're not going to have you do human interaction because having someone hold the phone for you means you have to talk to somebody. You don't want to do that. So instead, we're going to use technology to have you avoid talking to someone in the first place. Or how about the Olympics commercial Google had to pull because it was awful, of a father writing a letter posing as his child, but not even that. The AI was posing as his child writing a letter. The child just has no involvement whatsoever with writing this letter. So I don't even understand the point of writing this letter. But anyway, if you haven't heard of it, I'm sure it's on the internet somewhere, but there's articles about it being pulled. We don't need to get into the nitty gritty, but Google made a very silly video of why would you even interact with your daughter? Just have the AI, write this letter. Why even share that precious moment? The former Google CEO has said a lot of oopsies in a recent interview, and one of them being about work from home ruining Google, but another one about which he actually apologized for and withdrew that comment, but it's already been said, can't undo it. Then the other one, though, that stood out to me was about AI saying, all those thank you notes you have to write, now I can just tell my AI to do it. It's like, do you not understand the point of writing a thank you note is to take the time? Now you're just, I can't be bothered to interact with these other human beings. I'm so busy, right? I just find it so, like, the distinction between what Google is doing. They're removing the art. They're removing the humanity. It's all metal chrome technology. For what? We're saving all of this time for what? And the answer is, so you can go, do the things you love, like creating art and interacting with people. It's like, wait a minute. So you're making technology so I can get through making art faster or stop interacting with people so much so I have more time to make art and interact with people. What is the point? Anyway, what do you think of this, William?
Yeah, I know we're talking about corporations here, but still corporations are the embodiment of the people within them. Corporations can legally be regarded as individuals, and I think corporations have the personality of individuals. Microsoft has a very distinct personality compared to Apple. It seems to me that for some reason I'm reminded of Steve Jobs describing Microsoft by saying that they have no taste. And yes, actually, that sums it up. None at all. Apple has taste and is working for people who create things. Google doesn't see the value in that at all, other than we can sell more stuff.
It's an obstacle to overcome.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that reminds me of people who write to me, because I work for the Writers Guild and do all sorts of other writing things. I'll talk to people who talk about wanting to be a novelist, for example, and you talk to them for a minute and you realise they don't want to write a book, they want to have written a book. And the thing is,
Right.
they never will. Yeah, wasn't Waterstones, a bookshop in the UK, did this gorgeous thing of that meme about, if you'd like to find out what your author name is, put your name on the cover of a book, write a book. And yes, the process is the thing, is the art, is the creation. That's not to diminish the commercial stuff, but the art is there. I'm sorry, I'm off on one now. Ignore me.
You're fine. We don't have time to cover it this week, so I want to emphasize Apple is not perfect. It is also not a monolith. None of these companies are. All right, they're made up of many people with many opinions and many ideas. Apple is doing something very, I'm going to say, stupid this week by asking Patreon to pay a 30% fee, which is going to fall down to the people who create content on the platform, making them take out of their own income to pay a fee for something that Apple's never asked for before, but is now asking for now and requiring, or else pull Patreon from the App Store. It's a whole deal. We're not going to have time to cover it this week. It could change 6 times by the time our next episode comes out. But it's relatively nasty, right? We've had these conversations about Apple and their financial side of things. Whoever, like Luca Maestri down on their CFO side of things, seems to have a very different relationship with the consumer versus the creative side of Apple. So again, these companies are not monoliths, but not to undo the conversation we just had. But on the other side of things, on the people making decisions for Apple's technology, their devices, and their software, their AI, those people, up to the CEO, Tim Cook, seem to have this thirst and this love for humanity, for the human side of technology, right? That cross-section of liberal arts technology, right? That seems to always have been and still continues to be bred into everything Apple does, setting the financials aside. Apple's financial systems are kind of a mess. Their services revenue is about to take a 25% dive because of a lawsuit with Google declaring that they are an illegal monopoly, which could break them up, which is another part of this conversation we're not going to have time for. Well, there's going to be plenty of time for that. That is not ending anytime soon. That said, right, you look at Google and the former CEO, the current CEO, these presentations, these soulless, very sad, please love me, I'm cool presentations Google puts on. I shared the meme. It's the, guy walking in with a skateboard and a backwards hat, and he's obviously in his 50s, and he's like, hello, fellow kids, right? It's that meme. That's a Google event, right? It just,
yeah,
I don't know. It just feels so desperate. Please love us. And also, at the same time, we're completely ignoring the fact that people want to create and build because they love it. Instead, we're going to say, oh, you silly human. You don't need to do that. We'll take care of that for you. You don't need to make art. You don't need to interact with people. We're going to do that for you because either you're bad at it or you shouldn't be doing it in the first place because we're better at it. And that mentality seems so baked in that even their previous CEO is talking that way. And that's just wild to me.
I just need to correct one thing. There was a 50-year-old skateboarder at the Olympics, and apparently he was cool. I mean, I didn't see it, but
so that's not what I mean.
Example,
it's the meme.
Yes,
right.
There are exceptions. Me too. I can't even remember if he won or not. But yay, whoever he was.
Not the Olympian, the actor.
No, I don't know.
In a lot of Adam Sandler movies. Anyway, its name is escaping me.
No, okay.
Well, he wasn't Adam Sandler, but it's the guy from. Anyway,
everyone
knows the meme I'm talking about.
Except apparently me. But guess what I'm going to do next? I will go look up.
I will share that meme with you so you can.
Thank you. I think. Thank you. Yes.
Pop culture references. No. So anyway, I know we could have a whole show on just this conversation, but I just wanted to lay out the top level view because. I'll probably write about this in more detail later. I hope you guys read it and enjoy it. Write back to me. Let me know what you think about this conversation we've had. And if I do make this article, let me know what you think of that. But I just, 1,000-foot view, Apple, I keep repeating this because I think it's important. And I hope other people take notice. Apple doing AI the way it is, I think is the right way to do AI.
Yeah.
And what OpenAI and Google are doing feel like they're chasing problems that don't exist. They're trying to and they're doing it poorly, right? These AIs, they hallucinate. Even when you ask them to generate. So one of the features Google announced was, write me a research paper on this topic, and Google's going to go out and grab multiple references, multiple sources, add it to the bottom of the document, write this entire research paper in a research format, and give it to you. And I understand that it's capable of doing that, but it just feels wrong on so many levels. Maybe it's useful to have that information, but it should stop at the information phase. But I guarantee you someone's going to use that to then take it and present it as evidence without even knowing, because they didn't do the research. They don't know if it's accurate or not. They just look at it and say, "Oh, it has the sources," and then they never go read the source to find out that it hallucinated. Or often enough, it'll just make up a source and add a link that just leads to a 404 because it made it up, but you don't know because you didn't write the paper and you didn't do the work. It's fake, and that's the difference now. So if there's ever been a tribalism today between Apple and Google, or Apple and Android, Apple intelligence and artificial intelligence, I think it's very simple. It's real versus fake, and that's where we've gotten today.
It seems to me that when you are asked to write a paper on something, it is not because the university or wherever doesn't know the answer already. Like, you're the 50th person to do this. The process of writing it and researching it is what they are teaching you. So to just hand in something somebody else typed, I think professionally that upsets me, but also I think it makes degrees and whatever worthless. And as you get out into the workforce from this, you will not have the skills you need to do the work you need for it. So it's damaging at like a root and branch level, not just at that point.
It's a fundamental breakdown of education. I mean, this is a whole different discussion, but like the point of much of school and education, grade school and up, isn't turning in the assignment. It's doing the assignment.
Yes. Because
the repetition, the tedium of it is the education, learning the process and knowing it inside and out. If I had these processes available to me going through the nuclear program, I would have failed because I would have never learned anything.
Yeah.
But I want to end on a happier note, William.
Oh, good. Right, I'm ready. Give it to me. Yes.
So
No.
The Apple Watch a few years ago got a very fun Toy Story watch face.
Oh, yes, I remember this. Yes.
Have you ever looked at these animations?
Briefly.
They run up and they look at the screen.
Yeah, I'm more a Snoopy guy, but okay, I remember these coming.
The Snoopy one is quite excellent. Yeah. So we got a teaser for Toy Story 5 recently, and I don't know. I would love to hear the decision process for making this teaser, because whoever made it, I hope they didn't get fired. I don't want anyone to get fired over this or anything, but someone figured it out online that they just played the animations from the Apple Watch face of all the characters running up and waving at the screen.
Yeah.
It's not even that they recreated it. It is they took it, clipped out the background, and put it against the Toy Story 5 teaser art, and had each of the characters run up and wave at the camera, and it's just the Apple Watch animation. How wild is that?
It works, though. Give them credit for that. Knocked out in 20 minutes, and it worked. Oh, yeah, you don't think AI did it? No.
No.
Oh,
it's very clearly a man-made, we copied and pasted this, but could you imagine they're like, wait, I don't know what this was, D25. It's one of those conferences where they announce everything. Someone woke up, Bob over here in charge of advertising, and he's just like, wait a minute, that's today? What do we do? We got to announce this movie. They want a teaser, a 30-second teaser of this movie that's coming out in 2028 or whatever. We got to put it together. What do we do? We have all these animations laying around. No one wears an Apple Watch. They've never seen these before. Just throw it on a poster board, and nobody will notice. It's just very clearly clipped out. It's so funny. But again, no disparity to them. I just talking about AI and all of that stuff. Sometimes humanity of things can create a humorous thing like this, and this is a very obvious human situation of someone made a very silly decision, or they thought they saw this file full of animations like, no one's using this. Like, I don't know. I would love to know the inside story of that, but I just find it very funny.
But they are getting us to talk about that film, which is the point of a trailer. Yes. So maybe it's cleverer than we think it. Yeah, could be. No, you're just looking
Toy
at me
Story
now.
5.
Yes.
Andy begins drawing his AARP, and
Okay.
yes, I just don't know exactly what. Anyway, that's a whole different section, guys. Thanks for listening to the show. Apple Insider Plus will begin soon. If you are a premium subscriber, of course, you'll get to hear William talk about the iMac, which is very exciting. But of course, as always, you can find us. You can talk to us about everything Toy Story 5, how excited you are about that, maybe the live-action Lilo and Stitch movie that they're making. Or you could talk to us about Apple Intelligence, and maybe you could say I'm wrong about everything. I love being told I'm wrong because it forces me to reconcile and double down on it. No, I'm joking.
Okay.
I do like hearing everyone's opinions, though. Please let us know what you thought of the Google event. I found it kind of droll and sad and didn't really excite me at all. But hey, if you like Cylons, you can buy their phone. But William, where can people find you on the internet?
Well, normally at this point I would say email, and that is still my favourite, but I feel obliged now to say Patreon. My YouTube channel, 58 Keys, has a Patreon thing in it. Nice. So obviously I was informed by Patreon of all this stuff going on, and we will see how that plays out. But 58 Keys on Patreon, or email. Email's always the best. William@appleinsider.com.
Email works for me too. You can find me on Mastodon. That's pretty much where I always am. Always happy to have a conversation about what we've talked about on the show or anything surrounding it. Articles we've written. The Apple Vision Pro review is coming, the 6-month review. I promise. It's written. It exists. We're going to publish it. It's just any day now. But yes, please reach out. And I would like to thank our sponsor, ZocDoc, one more time. And I think that's a show this week, William. And we'll talk to you guys next week.